Psalm 55, 120, 140 through 142. We hear in 55:2 this phrase, "O Lord, I am restless in my complaint." We also have the same phrase found in 142:2, "I pour out my complaint before you." The reason I find this, jumping off the page for me, a lot of my previous work when I was working on my dissertation 20-some years ago was reading the literature of the ancient Near East, laws, treaties, all sorts of things outside the Bible. And a major portion of those studies were done in the prayers of the ancient world. And when you read the Psalms, especially these times here when we're reading about David running from Saul, it just sounds so different, because in the prayers of the ancient world, you would never say this to a deity. In fact, let me read. This is called a prayer to Marduk. Marduk is one of the gods mentioned in the Old Testament. The prayer goes like this: "O great Lord Marduk, merciful Lord, who can understand a god's behavior? I would fain be obedient and incur no sin, but who has not been negligent? Which one has not committed sin? Divine affliction is for mankind to bear. I am surely responsible for some neglect of you. I have surely trespassed the limits set by the God. Forget what I did in my youth, whatever it was. Let your heart not well up against me. Absolve my guilt, remit my punishment. Clear me of confusion, free me of uncertainty. Let me stand before you always in prayer, supplication, and entreaty. Absolve my guilt, remit my guilt, the monstrous guilt that I have built up from my youth. Scatter it hence, absolve it sevenfold." That prayer is not uncommon in how it sounds in the ancient world. So different from how David approaches his God. Let me summarize, in fact, when we do read these prayers, how they often work. They were part of ritual. In fact, they were an extension usually of a sacrifice, a weekly, even a daily sacrifice that these villages and countryside cities went through almost every day, again, to feed the deity and to keep him or her happy. And the prayer was just simply an extension of that. That's why it was usually not spontaneous. It was formal. It was very fixed. Once a prayer was written, it was given to a priest. That priest would read it over and over again, and repetition was considered the way to merit the deity's response. You may have heard in that phrase or that prayer the concept of sin or forgiveness being very common, lest we think that the Christian religion is all about forgiveness. Long before even Moses wrote the Pentateuch, we have evidence that the nations were so concerned about their guilt. And here's why. They believed that humans served the gods. In other words, the only purpose of humanity was to meet the needs of the deity. And when deities didn't find us doing or acting properly, the guilt was on us, and we were nervous and scared. And that's the last thing that I would say I notice in the prayers of the ancient world outside the Bible. They were filled with, as you even heard this prayer I read, with this cautionary nervousness. Will my God hear me? Will he answer me? It was always a question mark in the mind of the ancient prayer. And then we turn. This is what's, again, so fascinating about moving into the Psalms, even these difficult Psalms that we're reading now from David. When we hear him say, "God, I am complaining," that is so different because it's the heart of a loyalist. And we all know that, as I've said, the friends that we have are the ones that really hear our heart, even our complaints, right? So I think when God heard this language from David, he smiled and he said, "You understand what I want from you. I don't want behavior. I don't want caution, worrying about how you sound. I want you to be honest, real, and loyal." And that's what David does.